He is, of course, a man who needs little introduction to either the Sri Lankan or international audience. Professor Athula Sumathipala is a specialist in both family medicine and psychiatry, holding an MBBS, DFM, MD from Sri Lanka, FRC Psych, CCST, and a PhD from the University of London. Professor Sumathipala is the founding director of the Institute for Research and Development in Health and Social Care, the founder of the Sri Lankan Twin Registry, and currently serves as Secretary General of the International Society for Twin Studies. His academic appointments include Emeritus Professor of Psychiatry at Keele University, UK, and Emeritus Professor of Global Mental Health at King's College, London. He has also served as a visiting professor at Kothalavala Defence University and was awarded the H.B. William Travelling Professorship from the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists. Professor Sumathipala is Associate Editor of the British Medical Journal, co-editor of the Ceylon Medical Journal, and a leader whose work has bridged continents and disciplines. Today, he will enlighten us on 25 years of the Sri Lankan Twin Registry. Please join me, ladies and gentlemen, in welcoming Professor Athula Sumathipala.
Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Professor Krishanta Besena, His Excellency Mr. Andrew Patrick, High Commissioner to Great Britain and Ireland, Keynote Speaker Professor Matthew Hotoff, and all the colleagues, invited guests. I would like to save the time to do my talk rather than greeting everybody once again, but with equal respect, everybody is welcome. So the host of this Congress, as you heard, the Institute for Research and Development and Sri Lankan Twin Registry, as you saw, has a long history, which is summarized here. You will see very soon a coffee table book with those. You all know the power of branding, and that branding is, for us, for the last 25 years, had been research, ethics, community engagement and involvement, based on the foundation of international collaborative research, and the roof is to protect that capacity building, creating the next generation of researchers, which we have shared with our success story in BMJ Leader. By the way, I have to correct, I'm not the co-editor of British Medical Journal, I'm associate editor of British Journal of Psychiatry, so I need to correct that. So our core values, creating strategic partnerships, which you have witnessed from 32 countries, promoting an environment free of bureaucratic hindrances to research, which we see now part of the world, working for policy impact, that's the center of our work beyond us for our nation, promoting multidisciplinary research, engaging the public in research, working with people who benefit from research and help to build our nation through research. Starting from scratch a long march, Matthew would recognize this, a porter cabin, which turned out to be this building at King's College, London. We, following King's College path, we started this dilapidated room of my wife's ancestral home, 5 of us, I'm going to tell you who they are, into this place which we are now. That all happened in the context of global divide, what we call the 90-10 divide, as you all know. 25 years ago, we actually mapped 6 leading journals in psychiatry for 5 years to find only 6% of research come from 90% of disease burdened countries. And we recently surveyed 11 leading journals of psychiatry to find after 20 years it's still only gone up to 12%. We thought maybe this is psychiatry. We went and analyzed the leading medical journals to find it's 6.5. We repeated that survey and to see it's gone only up to 12%. When it comes to twin research, you would see twin registries, ancestral categories, and ancestral categories of jivas is similar. So 12% of research from 90% of population, good enough, not good enough for us. We are not satisfied with that. Why? It's in an era of evidence-based medicine. To us, it's evidence-biased medicine. So with that background, our mission was to establish a sustainable independent research infrastructure with local and international collaborations, capacity building, working for policy impact and bringing research grants, because we can only have GDP allocated only 0.1%, but with the new government it has gone up. With South-South cooperation and North-South cooperation, for mutually beneficial and mutually respectful. I stress this word once and again. Our experience for the last 25 years, Matthew would vouch for it, has been very pleasant, no rows, but we have been very careful in choosing our partners. We have met arrogant people who tried to bully us, who thought, they can impose things on us. We will not collaborate with anybody of that sort. We expect respect. We would respect them as well. That's the criteria, bottom line, for equitable, ethical research culture and environment. So going by the longitudinal research programs, the research pillar, of course, the Twin Registry. I'm not going to talk about it because my colleague, who is a co-founder of this registry, we'll talk about it later, but I just want to highlight, because we not only do Twin Research, we carried out this island-wide mental health survey, 10,000 samples just for $30,000. And you would see from this, I'm not going to go through that, we have figures for the whole country. The Puttlam is the highest. The policy impact was straight away, the Ministry of Health appointed a psychiatrist. Then we analyzed the PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, demolishing the myth that it will be 60%, 70%. It was only 1.9%. And we did a lot of qualitative work to show that we are a resilient nation. We have faced adversities, but we have always pulled out of it. We did research commissioned by the Ministry of Health on left behind family migrations. Again, one of 4 projects which contributed to the national migration policy. My own research on medically unexplained symptoms, which also Matthew has the expertise, has had an impact on international level in addition to local, and it's one of the first line guidelines for post-war. Then this scaling up perinatal mental health, which is a project led by Atif Rahman, again funded by NIHR in 4 countries. And Sri Lankan part was led by Nihala Besingha, who is here, my colleague for the last 25 years. And local leader was Krishani Jayasinghe. And we did quite a lot of work. I'm not going to go into details, but we always use the social media to try and enlighten the users. And we produced this half-an-hour teledrama. Within a month, there was 100,000. This 3 minutes theme song, which I wrote as a part of it. And as a result, we are very grateful to Dr. Anil Jayasinghe, Secretary Health. The Ministry of Health has commissioned us to carry out training the primary care health workers. And we had a session this morning, which was very, very promising. There was people talking from WHO, the Ministry of Health. Basically, they have endorsed, we presented the research and all that. I'm not going to go into detail. Then translating evidence for early intervention in psychosis project is going on down south. Dr. Rumi Ruban is here. Again, the significance of this is they die 10 years prematurely. So we are trying to do this research, which we had again with a lot of policy level backing. Then ethics pillar. History of focus on ethics pillar started after tsunami, because after the first natural wave, there was a second wave, man-made, so-called aid, outdated medication coming to Sri Lanka. I'm not going to go into detail. Cultural intrusion, compulsory counseling, multiple needs. So we couldn't turn a blind eye. We took an informed choice. Yes, we did. And in the short term, we created enemies by advocating ethics, but we stood on our grounds. and making strong friends on the long run, because disaster research guidelines was only available in US. So generally, disaster and complex emergencies after is a fertile ground for exploitative research. So we summoned a group of people in the region, funded by the Wellcome Trust. We produced the only guidelines out other than USA, and necessarily saying all people who survive are vulnerable populations. I'll come to that. And then again, taking that knowledge back to Europe. And again, for us, ethics is beyond philosophy. Working for evidence-based ethics, we have done quite a lot of work on ethics review committees, local understanding, science, and all that. I don't have time to go through. So now back to this. Again, I'm not going to talk about the research itself, but twins. This is interesting. Whose territory is it? Somebody asked me 25 years ago, you are a psychiatrist. I mean, he didn't ask in that way, a bit of a rude way. I'm an obstetrician. This is my territory. Some people believe it's a perinatologist. Some people think it's neonatologist. Some people think it's radiologist. Ironically, last week, another psychiatrist asked me the same question, but it's everybody's. Epidemiologists, geneticists, psychiatrists, sociologists, educationists, statisticians, and after all, twins and twin families. So twins' power as a research method is, I'm not going to go into science, it's basically teasing out the environment and genetic impact and influence on diseases. So the big picture, the scope is very wide, and in genomics, Professor Vajra Disanayake is here, proteomics, transcriptomics, you name it, metabolomics. We had a very, very interesting session on the first day where Professor Vajra Disanayake himself spoke. I'm very grateful, Vajra, to you. The certain sentiments you brought out, I'll come back to that. And it was a very, very successful thing. And again, we had this workshop today, Foundations of Twin Analysis. Two colleagues from USA who wrote this book. They're actually top world experts. And you can see on the right side, meeting Mike 25 years ago. He and both of them were here. So what is the place of twins in conventional research? I'm not going to go into details again. You name it. They can be used as a research tool in any specialty. So one of the things which had not been highlighted adequately was that twins as participants in random control trials, we did a systematic review and it was about 15 trials throughout the world. Then we came up with this book chapter. I'm not talking about drug trials. I'm talking about complex interventions, behavioral trials as well. So the scope of this is beyond the basics. Why? Because in an era of complex diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, cancer, multimorbidity, these disorders result from contribution of multiple genomic variations, and it's futile to search for single genes in complex diseases because most of the genes are already been found. So diseases of public health importance are due to complex interplay, multiple genes and environmental exposures. Discovering gene interactions, environment interactions for promotion of public health is the way. So, who believed us first? Professor Devaka Fernando. I had 10 minutes discussion with him while I was in UK. I came. 10 minutes, deal done. He was the secretary of Sri Lankan Medical Association. That was the turning point. The second person, sir, you are here tonight, Professor Rohan Jayasekara. And when we launched this, Professor Nadavanna Surya, during SLMA sessions, sir, you wrote this. I'm going with permission to read it because it's very relevant. In the annals of research into human biology in Sri Lanka, the establishment of National Twin Registry is indeed a signal achievement of great significance. It's not for the wisdom of courage and passion, commitment and steadfast resolve of two of our Sri Lankan scientists, Athula Sumathipala and Devaka Fernando. This original embryonic thought would never have had such a healthy period of gestation and this momentous birth. We in Sri Lanka have been sitting on a treasure trove of twin material, either in ignorant bliss or in a muted state of muted awareness. And today with this launch, we shed that grab of indifference and ignorance into a new world of research. Anthropologically, Sri Lanka is one of the most interesting islands in the world, with considerable genetic diversity between 5 main populations due to contribution from ancestral and immigrants in European and Asian origin. In this scenario, the many basic research projects in human biology that have been carried out have always had to contend with and at times confront a perennial problem. That being the determination of whether the human biological variation one encounters is direct impact of genetic constitution or the influence of wide spectrum and environmental forces that control the final outcome of a psychological process, a parameter of stage of development. With the availability of twin registry in Sri Lanka, I hope these unanswered questions will soon end and twin studies will allow and encourage scientists to burrow deep into the aspects of science which of many years did elude them. It is my fervent and twin hope that the launching of this project, the scientific community will cooperate and assist in the functioning, and that the outcome of research projects launched from it will not merely test an esoteric thought or a lame hypothesis, but will make realistic and useful contribution to the upliftment of health status of your country. So I'll leave it to you to decide whether we have lived up to your expectation. And what I like here more than what you wrote, your language, fascinating. And the third man who believed us, Professor Jaakko Caprio, is here. I met him in Finland in 1999, if I remember right. He gave this book, which Michael Neely authored, and unfortunately didn't put the date, but the message was there. And one final, Professor Nardavana Surya sir, one of our mentors, you stood throughout this journey. Thank you very much. So establishing volunteer registry was the first thing. It was launched at the SLMA sessions. Young Vajra Disanayaka, he mentioned it yesterday, and he volunteered, I have to say, and he did a lot of work, support us. And with the SLMA blessing, we had this volunteer registry established. We had this executive committee, which was later expanded. You all know them. And this young Vajra Disanayaka, pre-intern, he showed this yesterday, so that's why I'm showing it today. We sent him nominated to go to the Finland, Helsinki, to submit this poster. As you heard, Professor Vajra Disanayaka is the Dean Faculty of Medicine and Chairman of the Sri Lanka Medical Council. He earned his reputation. We are not going to get any credit for who he is today. But Vajra alluded yesterday, said that he started his life with us. Thank you very much, being so humble, Vajra. Because some people sometimes forget their roots and they don't want to say, and I see is at a great strength. And he told the young people, do what we have done. We want better trees grown taller than us. So the registry, we had many other people, Nimal De Silva, Dr. Sisira Siribadana, who was a research associate, Dr. Kaushal Jayavira, who is watching this from Australia. Sisira promised to come. I don't know whether he is around. Professor Siribadana joined Rajarata University as the Professor of Medicine, later became the Dean Faculty of Medicine. Thank you, Sisira, for what you have done for the registry. So we established the volunteer twin registry, but it was, ascertainment was biased towards young people. So we did a lot of feasibility work to try and see how best we can get it. And I have to say, I have been strategically opportunistic in a good way. We tied this to national census, door-to-door survey, and got 10,000 pairs, a population-based register, which is really a luxury in our part of the world. We always had ethical clearance. You can see not only from 2 universities, we even went to the WHO, and we set up this twin registry. Kaushalya Jayavira, coordinator, set up the biobank. He was waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning for many, many months. Thank you, Kaush, for that. So to cut a long story short, we had 3 waves. First wave was common mental disorder, large samples. Second wave, common mental disorders and comorbid physical illness. And the third stage after COVID, we decided to do some work on nutrition and impact. And the uniqueness of our registry was that we always had matched singleton samples, so thereby you can extrapolate, compare. And this man, Matthew Hotoff, and myself, we were trained at the Maudsley and King's together. So he's going to talk about the research. And this was a photograph taken in May this year, but 25 years, Matthew, I remember, two of us sat in the same thing, and we cracked it. And bringing benefits to Sri Lanka, over 15 Wellcome Trust grants and Medical Research Council grants. Your Excellency, you should be proud of that. And we had these colleagues from King's, I'm not going to name them because of the time concerns, but we would really love to remember them. And Matthew handed the baton because he was growing up the ladder to Fruling, who couldn't make it today. And Dr. Helena Savos is our current leader at that end. She is here today with her family and as Matthews. Then we set up this 2018, the younger cohort of Twin 688. You would see from these logos, it's a regional Australian and UK project funded by Medical Research Council. Our Honourable Member of the Parliament, Dr. Nihal Abesinghe, led that. Thank you, Nihal. In summary, we had the register. We have a volunteer register, population-based register, above 65s, and biobank, adolescent registry, and research. 3 waves. I'm not going to go into details. We have produced a large number of papers, and the good thing, equitable, ethical, authorship policy. They have been very generous too. They never demanded, let's be the masters, you all do the work. No, it was the other way around. It was a very pleasant journey. And as a result, we put the Sri Lankan map in 2014 in the World Twin Map. And we will be having a session tomorrow. Please be there. Our focus on ethics further extended through Twin Research. When we first started, it was not a journey on a red carpet. Enemies stuck, and this Daily Mirror basically said this Western agent is here to take the genetic material out of the country. Our strategy was we developed these ethics, guidelines, we did a lot of public engagement work, and we established a biobank, you can see from this. The genetic material was never sent abroad, and we will not send them, and we thought we'll do some research into that. Professor Jonathan Ives from Bristol, our colleague on ethics, did an independent thing with Krishani and in the qualitative study. The emerging theme was trust, which was echoed throughout the thing. Trust is a must, and trust is a byproduct of integrity. Integrity, sincerity, reliability, commitment, consistency, and competence. That's the moral of the story. Ethics, therefore, is an essential prerequisite. We will not compromise that ethics for any reason. Definitely not. We stood our grounds because, although we didn't witness this, knowledge is power. And as you know, bioethics, power, and injustice run in, very parallels. And vulnerable population, the traditional definition is it's a power imbalance between doctors and patients and researchers and research participants, but we have noticed there are power imbalances between the ethics committees and researchers, and high income, low income, middle country, there are a lot of ethical issues. I have to say this, global health research, partnerships and equity, no more business as usual. Budhika and myself have authored so many papers, chapters in Oxford and Cambridge, from a LAMIC perspective. I'm very happy to see all of our colleagues, collaborators have always respected that. And taking it further, there was this Congress in South Africa in 2018. I was a member of the scientific committee and advisor. We decided there are 66 countries, that data belongs to where it was collected. Professor Chandani Vanigatunga was also there. There was a heavy presence from our region, and we made a difference together. And we took that campaign again. We had a large team going to Kiel, touring UK. A lot of workshops there and doing the same thing here. We say one thing here, we don't say anything there. We do say the same thing. And I'm going to finish. As we do believe the role of North-South partnerships and collaborations, the direct flow of capacity building should not only be from North to South, it can be the other way around as well. And the role of North-South partnership collaborations, we all know that decolonizing global health is a very fashionable slogan, but take it from me, unless we walk the talk, it's no point there. So global collaborations, mutual respect is a must. If anybody doesn't respect us, you will not receive our respect. Equity and equality are two different things. Equitable authorships, shared goals, teamwork, leadership, and ethics and governance need more capacity building globally. And we will be having this particular session tomorrow to share with our global colleagues, because it's very important. And global health research should be viewed through the ethical lens. And last part of my talk is about community engagement. It's a must. That pillar, we have done quite a lot of work in Sri Lanka, inspired by the work at Kiel. Krisha, I can't pronounce her name, I don't want to say the wrong thing. But Krisha was telling this morning, when we say we learn from you, Krisha is saying, no, we learn from you. Thank you, Krisha, for that humbleness. And it's a fact. It's the key for people's benefit from research. It's very important. And you saw, we have been engaging Twins to culture over the last 15 years and always continued that this was the competition, this was the dancing, you are going to see more of it. And community involvement and engagement, we had a very lovely session today. And it's a must. Krisha has said, NIHR, who provided funds to us, always said the ethical dimensions of community engagement and involvement in global health is a must. And they can be and should be engaged throughout the research cycle. Honorable Minister, I know you are a very passionately committed for ethics and research, but I would suggest that we take this one. So they are involved not only in medical research, even in otherwise, we engage the industry right at the beginning, and we even developing a prototype would be done this way, and then there will be marketable products. Finally, capacity building individually, institutionally, nationally, and internationally. There are 10 PhDs right now from Melbourne to USA. Binol is here from USA. Buddhika and Kalpani has completed them. Then we support the PGIM, particularly Kiel, to capacity building. And we do support local universities, private universities from abroad in capacity building, internships, in plant training. More than 1,000 alumni, and we have these partnerships. We have partnered with almost all the universities in Sri Lanka, the regional collaborations and international collaborations. And we are very grateful to all these funding agencies. We have brought this amount of money, Professor Abesena, to Sri Lanka. And there were a lot of red tapes when we brought collectively, Krisha knows this, £1 million to Rajarata University. It was a struggle. We couldn't get in. There are a lot of personal as well as bureaucratic laws. I'm pretty sure under your leadership, sir, things will change. So finally, I just want to share that we have walked our talk sharing Global South, and I shared with you. And as I said, this is our brand. We have marketed it over 25 years. And that's why we decided that it would be the slogan in International Congress of Twin Research. Not just talking about research, but talking about ethics, CEI, capacity building. And that's the brand power, and you can read this article. Okay, finally, for all this hard work collectively, the Institute for Research and Development was recognized by the National Science Foundation as Excellence in International Collaboration for Advancement of Science and Technology in 2018. I'm humbled to say that, they awarded me individual outstanding leadership. Having said that, I have to reiterate, it was teamwork. It's not just me. I couldn't have done a fraction of this without the team. So the history evidence of good teamwork is output. You saw that. collaborative ability, you saw that, members' individual commitments, and that is what brought us to this stage as. And 25 years, my closing remark is going to be what I wrote 25 years ago. History is not determined by individuals. It's only a matter of some taking the lead to initiate and then the process continuing. That is true for Sri Lankan Twin Registry too. People come and go, but if they leave anything worthwhile, it will be carried forward by the others. History is full of such initiatives, and I have absolutely no doubt our young colleagues will take it forward. Acknowledgements. I'm not going to name them. Local colleagues know most of them. And this is our current executive committee. And this is our research council, young colleagues. This is the staff. We have a very small staff full-time, but we have part-time associates. And I'm very grateful to the people who I name here for all this work. And them. And finally, we are grateful to Britain. I'm not saying this because His Excellency is here. Matthew and them know. It was a very pleasurable thing. King's College, Keele University, Liverpool, and Bristol. We had absolutely no row about anything. And we have received money from funding from them. So I sort of blame Matthew as well, but none of you took enough credit, or this was not made visible throughout the world. And with 32 countries, colleagues being here, I think you can take a message back, including our friends from USA, and the research funding policy for our part of the world should change in our opinion, because that money will be an investment for transferable knowledge developed in our part of the world. That 6%, 20% research in our part of the world has contributed heavily. I can talk for the next 24 hours about that small amount of research. Finally, if I don't give enough credit, this was me going to UK. Most of you know why I had to go. I'm not going to go into that history. I went in 92, I came back in 97 when things changed in the country. And these were our girls. They grew up to become 3 professionals from Britain. 2 from King's and UCL, the other one from UCL. A big thank you to them for their sacrifice. And thank you, the audience. I have taken a little bit longer than I should have taken, but I really want to leave this memorable story for you all to take back. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.